Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss the news that Mark Carney's Liberals have won in the Canadian elections. Won't be a strong government. It will mean that the man who wants to work on closer trading relations with reliable trading partners to reduce reliance on Trump's America will now get to put his policies into action. This is very good news for those of us in Europe and elsewhere. And when you consider what's happened in Australia as well, as they get ready for an election this weekend, it shows how similar MAGA-friendly parties, including in Britain and France, could fare in the coming years. But first, for daily news and commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So at the time I'm recording this, not every result is known in the Canadian elections, but I do know this. First, Mark Carney was going to be Prime Minister. This is the big one for me, because obviously not living in Canada, it's Canada's foreign policies which are of most interest to me. But it's also clear that the Liberal Party have won more seats than they did at the last election, although the combination of Liberal and New Democratic Party seats looks like being significantly less. So the overall government may not be as strong in Parliament. But those are details for Canadians themselves. The big picture for those of us outside Canada is that the country will now look to forge an alliance of markets who want to champion a rules-based order, not allow the world to descend into the multipolar vision Trump has, where the most powerful countries tread the earth like kings and everyone else is crushed underfoot. Now, before I go into discussing some of the implications where dealing with Trump is concerned, worth considering the Orange One's influence here and how it may impact things in other Western countries, and I'm particularly mindful of France and the UK. Because I have to show this chart again. It's the voting intention polls in Canada, the winning Liberal Party in red, the Conservatives in blue, the New Democratic Party in orange. Analysts are saying they've never seen a turnaround in fortunes like it. But of course, they will also point to Justin Trudeau stepping down as being crucial as well. Trudeau had been Prime Minister for pretty much 10 years, and most Democratic publics are ready to spit out a head of government after that time. So how much was the turnaround due to Trump and how much due to an unpopular Prime Minister standing aside? Well, the two events happened pretty much at the same time in January. So it's very hard to say how much each factor played a part. Each factor will have played a part, by the way. I'm not saying it was one or the other. It will be a combination of both. But you think to yourself, to really distill it, if only we had another Western country with a Conservative Party ahead in the polls and an election looming to compare it with. Oh, wait, we do. Australia. They go to the polls this weekend and their Conservative Party was riding high at the start of the year, nailed on to win the election. The turnaround there, not been as dramatic, but it has still happened. Labour and the Conservatives are level on the primary vote and Labour have flipped into a, well, actually significant lead on the two-party preference, which is important because Australia has a preferential voting system. And what's interesting is that in both Canada and Australia, the Conservative Party opposition were nailed on for electoral victories at the start of this year, and there has been a sudden drop in popularity coinciding not with their respective leaders choosing to eat live puppies for breakfast or anything, but just people deciding that they don't want a government aligned with Trump. You know, the Canadian Conservatives' attempts to distance themselves from Trump came a little bit too little too late. And just to highlight how remarkable this is, as if it doesn't seem remarkable enough, consider that lots of governments going to the polls over the last couple of years, it's been noted there's been a lot of elections around the world, genuine democratic elections, we're not counting Russia, around the world over the past couple of years. And governments have been famously falling like dominoes. You know, even last year, it was being noted by polling analysts, this was remarkable. I've never seen anything like it. It's because of the inflation effect. It's caused a lot of changes of government because people don't necessarily pay attention to cause and effect where their economy is concerned. Economy good, keep the government. Economy bad, get rid of them. But the Liberal Party in Canada have just secured a fourth term. A huge turnaround that bucks this general global trend. Other countries have dropped unpopular leaders and still gone on to lose the election. The Trump effect seems undeniable. And if Labour do win Australia this weekend, even though that's going to be a very tight result to call, then any political party around the world, which at the moment is even associated with close relationships with MAGA Republicans, may need to do a little bit of thinking. Now, we haven't seen a sudden loss of support for Trump-friendly Conservatives in Britain or France, which raises another interesting question. So is this because in Britain and France we're not that bothered about Trump? Well, polling would suggest not. He's really unpopular. So an alternative hypothesis could be there's no Conservative downturn because we are not facing elections right now. It is known there is a change of behaviour in voting intention polls when election is imminent. It's often called the tightening of the polls. And it's caused by, between elections, people, when they're responding to polls, who would you vote for, tend to vote with their guts or their heart, however you want to describe it. The party they feel most charitably towards at that time. They don't really consider electoral realities. Once an election is going to happen, a person's voting intention is no longer an abstract concept. It will impact their life. So voters who are going to be pragmatic start thinking pragmatically. Now, we won't be able to test this hypothesis out until at least the French presidential election, I guess. But it may well be that if Trump is still proven to be as insane in 2027, then parties seen as being a bit too well aligned with Trumpism could lose out as they have in Canada and look like doing in Australia. France could be an early warning system for the MAGA cultists in the Conservatives and Reform UK in Britain. If Trump kills off the likes of National Rally in 2027, it would be a strong indicator that when an election is imminent, voters do indeed start to think about the sort of government they want and how they want it to view Trumpism. Could be a dangerous moment for both the Tories, but especially Reform UK, who have both stopped voluntarily praising Trump right now, but they are still aligning themselves when questioned about him. It is not, for example, automatically the case that Conservatives will definitely do badly. Germany's just elected their Conservative Party into being the senior partner in government, but Merz was very clearly opposed to Trump's bullshit, not just performatively. But that suggests Trump doesn't automatically make Conservatives unpopular, just those who are seen as being a bit of a national liability while Trump is in the White House. And Reform UK are way more closely aligned with Trump's policies than the Conservatives in either Canada or Australia. Could prove sticky for Farage in a few years. And that's not the only headwinds he'll be facing. But I've discussed how Reform UK could easily face a massive downturn by the next general election, despite the momentum they seem to have right now. I've done it before. I'll no doubt continue to do so regularly. But for now, what does this Canadian result mean in terms of dealing with Trump for the rest of us? Well, Carney was very keen on working closely with the UK and the EU to diversify markets away from America. Canada seems to be very pro-EU right now. Someone even showed me a poll showing strong support for them actually joining the EU. This will not happen. I suspect a lot of Canadians don't necessarily realise the full consequences of this, but it is an indication that the public would much rather move towards deals with the EU than with Trump. Obviously, Canada is always going to have good trading relationships with the USA. Geography demands that the North American market is the only one where you can develop efficient production supply chains. But reducing reliance as much as is economically sensible reduces the power of the bully boy tactics which Trump is employing. The reason why China is more able to fight this trade war is because it has literally spent the last 10 years preparing for this point, because they saw the way the wind was blowing. A different US president may also attempt these same bully boy tactics in the future as well. So it's not even a case of getting through Trump's term and hoping for the best. Carney has been saying that lessons must be learned after what he called the American betrayals, his words. This is not someone who sounds like he's going to go cap in hand to Trump to capitulate. He's an economist with a strong track record running the Bank of Canada during the banking crisis and the Bank of England in the years following the Brexit referendum. Now needs to manage another economic crisis. Carney has said that the old relationship of integration with the US is now over. Again, direct quote, those are his words. So we can expect him to join Starmer in pushing for much closer trading relationships with Europe at the same time as the EU is also very motivated to protect itself from the economic threat posed by Trump and those who will seek advantage from his abandoning of the established rule-based world order. It's often easy to think that the world is going to hell when we see dark forces winning, and there are an awful lot of them winning right now, but it is worth remembering there is always a fight back to be had. This news from Canada is very good news, and Carney shows every sign of stepping up now, taking a crucial leadership role on the world stage, and we absolutely need that. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.